What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hillbilly Farmers YouTube channel. The goal is today to just kind of take you guys along with us and just kind of show you all how things progress here on the farm throughout the day today. So hopefully everything will work out great. Well, first things first, we have to get these broilers fed and watered, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Start off with their feed. Not completely out. Dump the rest on the ground here. Give them a little more room to get all their feed for the day. These little guys right here must have plenty of feed. Top them off like that. We do weigh out their feed. These little guys here are so small it kind of doesn't really matter yet, but when they get larger, those over there are actually, not mistaken, 5 weeks old. So weighing out the feed does help out a lot. We feed them twice a day, come down here and give them water twice a day. And with these Salatin style shelters, you typically see a bell watering system. Well, a couple years ago, we couldn't find any, so we had to go with the hanging water system. It's okay. Just what we have, so that's what we do. We have 3 of these shelters that are built, and hopefully later today I'll show you that. And a little bit of an issue that we've had with them. It's not been major. I can go ahead and talk about it a little bit right now. But the center board that holds up the roof runs from the center, from that side over to that side. I have 3 of these shelters and I've had to replace that board 3 times basically. So I had to make a repair on that one. I went ahead, instead of using a 1x3 for that particular board, I went with a 2x4. Yes, it's going to add a little bit of weight to it, but the nice thing about it is it's going to provide a lot more strength in there. The center kind of sways down, and you'll see that here in a few. Some point in time during this video, I believe. And yes, we do haul water. I know that's a big no-no. You want to have water ran throughout wherever you're taking your livestock. But with only 2 shelters running out here right now, it's not really a big deal. As you can see, I don't have to haul a whole lot of water. It would be nice in the future to get some water lines ran all around here, but it's not going to be today. I highly doubt it'll even be this winter. But I actually built these shelters before. The book from Polyface called Polyface. I don't know, I'll put a picture of the book in here. But anyway, I made these before the book was available. So I did have notes from a person who did intern at Polyface a number of years ago and built it off of that. So they're pretty close to the way Polyface builds them, but not exactly. So I highly recommend getting that book. They use a whole different process to build them than I did, which made a lot of sense. I actually built all the panels first and then put it together, and the way I did it was I built it from the ground up. So I think it's going to save you a lot of time if you get that book. It already has all the measurements, dimensions, what you need to use. I spoke with Joel Salatin at the Homesteaders Convention last October, and it seems one of the mistakes that I made here was I used drywall screws to hold these together instead of decking screws. So that was one of the mistakes I made, but I had to roll with that. So these kind of, not really so much on these parts right here, but the kites want to come off of it. That's about the biggest problem that I've had with it. One thing that I do that might be a little bit different, that may or may not be in the book, is I actually took Romex staples that you'd use for building a house, for instance, and I ran them along the bottom all the way around within 1 foot of each other. One thing that our dog has taught us, which is pretty interesting, that whenever predators come by, they don't really think about trying to get up here to the top. They really want to go down around the bottom. They try and pull at this fencing. We had just regular old staples like from a staple gun, and our dog was pulling those out. So we learned pretty quickly that we need to have a little bit more reinforcement there. These shelters, when you build them, they're not really, when it's nothing but the wood and the fasteners on it, these things are feather light. I mean, they're really, really light. But whenever you start getting the metal on it and the fencing, it does add some weight to it. But you can move them, one person can move them. We usually do this as a team. We'll move these this evening. Hopefully we'll get that in the video as well. But yeah, so this is kind of just a little rundown on this situation here. And while I was down feeding the chickens, Anna was up here washing some eggs. Next, we're going to go ahead and crop out this bed of radish. It needs to go for the fall planting. Well, today is a bit of a weird day for us. This is Saturday. I didn't even look at the calendar. I think today is the 13th. We're usually at the farmer's market, but we don't really have a whole lot of variety, which is common for this time of year. So we decided to take the day off from farm sales, which is going to hurt, but we need to take this time to go ahead and get more things accomplished here on farm. And also, that's the way we can take you around with this today. It's not a hot day. The humidity is down. When it gets really hot, I don't even feel like talking. So another reason why we weren't recording videos there for a while. Too hot, too sweaty. I mean, here in Southwest Virginia, we get pretty humid. Usually, we can get up to like 70% humidity. You get that combined with the lower 90s and upper 80s and no wind, it just turns into a super hot situation. Now, it's nowhere nearly as sweltering as y'all deal with down there in the deep south, that's for sure. When I was a kid, probably in 5th grade, we went down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it was during the summertime. It was in August. And oh man, that was some thick air, that's for sure. Really thick air. So some of these might be okay to save. Not really spending a lot of time trying to investigate which are which. Yep, so we're generally at the farmer's market. So it feels quite odd, that's for sure. Let's think that we're not out there to see everybody. Since we're here on the farm all the time, it is kind of nice to get out there and speak with folks and just get out of here for a while. But I think today we're going to use the staycation area, so I'll need to go weed eat that later on as well. That one might be all right, might be good enough. Put it on a salad later on. But as of right now, Anna's making some breakfast for us. I believe we're going to do some BLTs and eggs. I did want to say a few more words about the chickens though. Well, I guess I can start off by the mistakes we've made with the chickens. We started off with a really small shelter just to see if we could even manage to handle moving the chickens. So what we did is we actually ran about 8 laying hens in a little shelter. But unfortunately a couple got divorced when they were starting their farm, which seems to be very typical, by the way, so y'all be careful out there. But anyway, got divorced, so we bought a few things off of them that he was using on farm. One of those was that little shelter. So we tried that just to test it out. We didn't pay a whole lot for the little shelter. It was already built. It's made out of 2x4s and it's incredibly heavy. So it's not really ideal for moving around a lot of chickens, but hey, who knows, it might be something that you could use, build something similar to it. So we did that with some laying hens for about a year, got used to that. Said, okay, well maybe we can do this. So then I happened to work with a guy at my day job that I no longer work at the moment, hoping I can keep it that way. And he gave me the little sketches he had to build it, so I went ahead and built that. The bad thing was that was the very beginning of, no, it wasn't beginning, it was May of 2020, so y'all know what was going on then. So thankfully I was able to run around and grab enough pieces and bits to make that shelter. And I'll see if I can put some B-roll in it. It's the one that I had not weed eated yet. It might be in a different location than it is right now. But anyway, so ended up building one, and we tried our first batch of broilers. And the nice thing about it was that particular fellow that interned at Polyface, he was able to come down here during butcher day as well to help us out with butchering. And that was such a great, awesome thing because we got it done. We lost a few chickens. We made a lot of mistakes on our first batch, but we lost some. I think we only had, I can't remember exactly, 63 birds. Generally it's 75 is what we shoot for. Always have a little bit of attrition, but that's just the way that it goes. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So he helped us out, and we were able to get it accomplished in about 8 hours. And that's a team of people that had no idea what they were doing except for the one person. So that was great. If we'd have just been doing it on our own and trying to learn, it would have taken us, we probably have been trying to slaughter those chickens for 2-3 days. So we really appreciated that. So, I mean, I do highly recommend if you can go to a tutorial or something like that. I know that Sow the Land, they have in the past. I think Justin Rose has done it too, but actually go through and show you how to do it at their place, which is a great thing. I don't know if we'll ever do that here. It may happen in the future, but it's not anything on my radar right now. So that was pretty interesting. One of the other mistakes I wanted to tell you all about before I get done with this bed of radish here is that success leaves clues. And I don't know how many of y'all follow Polyface and Joel Salatin and all that, but they have interns that come in there and work. And they work for a certain period of time. Don't quote me exactly on this. They hire the interns in May, I believe, and by September, all the interns are finished. So that clue is that's probably when they're going to be running their chickens on pasture, their broilers. Well, we tried it to where we started the birds off and got the birds on pasture early May last year. And here we can still have a frost until basically the middle of May. It's always a possibility right here in this little microclimate that we're in. And we noticed that the birds did not get to a large size. We were shooting for about 4.5 pounds average weight, and we got less than 3.5 pounds average weight. So we went to the Homesteaders Convention last fall and spoke with, it was Myers Hatchery. Very informative lady was up there. I don't have her name in my brain right at the moment. I asked her a simple question. I said, which way is it better to mess up on them? Too hot or too cold, as far as the birds themselves being too hot or too cold? She said, you absolutely do not want to mess up with too cold. So what happens when the birds get too cold out on pasture is that they just stop growing. They still eat feed. They don't eat as much feed as because they're not getting bigger, but you're still out there feeding them basically for no reason. They grow super duper slow. They almost stop growing, getting bigger, that is. So when they get cold, that's it. You're pretty much done for. Now, we also made that mistake during the fall last year. We ran the birds on pasture through the middle of October. And guess what happened toward the end of September? Got too cold for them. They stopped growing, and we just had to keep feeding them until butcher day. So just want to let y'all know about that one. I know there's something we've figured out. We've let other farmers know that are in our circle that do that type of stuff. Kind of give them a hint here. One of which is at the farmer's market where we're not at today. And I want to let y'all know that as well, so that way y'all don't make that mistake of doing that. So we've learned, that's why I have 2 batches out there now. We've learned that we have to have more than 1 batch running at a time. We can't do them one after the other. They have to be running simultaneously to achieve that goal of not letting them get too cold. But just wanted to show you guys, tell you guys about that part. Hope that can help out with the chickens in the future. And I'm out of room. I gotta move you guys out of the way. Now we're gonna take this up to the chickens. As you can see here, horse nettle got me. Imagine that. As you can see here, we just have a single tote that we use in the garden. And these totes here are old totes that we use for washing the salad and all that stuff earlier on, but they've broken. So in an effort to just try and salvage these before they are completely destroyed, we've doubled them up. That way it gives a little bit more strength since you have a bunch of cracks and other things that are within them. So that's how we do it, to try and just save some money and just try to not have as much plastic use around here. We do use tunnels, but that's just what we have to do to play the game. Don't like it, but it's just life as it is. I don't usually use the Suzuki on farm, but since we're recording today, it's just helped me move the stuff around. I actually bought this thing for $1,500 about 2 years ago. I bought it for quite a few reasons. Just want to give y'all a heads up that way. Maybe if you guys are thinking about a vehicle for your farm, this might help you out. Well, if you go and try and find a real nice four-wheeler, it's pretty decent. I mean, you're looking at what, $3,000 to $5,000. If you're trying to find a golf cart to run around on your farm, you're looking at $5,000, especially right now if you can even find a golf cart for sale. There's just such a limited supply of them right now. So with those, I can't drive them on the road. The golf cart may or may not be four-wheel drive for $5,000. It may only be two-wheel drive. This actually has windshield wipers. It has windows, doors, heat. It does have air conditioning, but it's broken right now. I'm just not worried about fixing it. I haven't been driving it much. It's four-wheel drive, so I can go anywhere here on the farm without getting stuck. And it was only $1,500. So it's very, very versatile. We have had to use this before when the four-wheeler has been broke down. That's the hillbilly in me, four-wheeler. But anyway, when the four-wheeler has broken down, we have had to use this in the past. So we had it as a backup for the four-wheeler. Typically, I like to ride around in a four-wheeler. The weight of this thing does impact the soil. It does kill the grass as you drive along. The four-wheeler, however, does not. You can drive through, come back the next day, and you don't even see tracks from it. So just wanted to give y'all a heads up about this little piece of equipment here. It's been handy, and it's relatively cheap. Let's head up to the chickens. Well, here we are up here at the chickens. Whoop. Y'all watch out now. All right. Now, y'all get to work. Compost this material for us. Yep, that's why we keep them up here, so they can compost everything. When they do some good work now, I'll tell you that right now. But we're gonna take this material out of here after the broilers are finished on pasture, and we're gonna put it out on somewhere out there. I need to work on my composting situation a little better. We'll get all this out of here, and we'll use it for something else, like making the garden bigger. Maybe we can use it as an amendment for the garden later on if we need to. Last year I did run these on pasture during the summer, and they really liked it, but the only thing that I didn't get out of that was the manure to do the composting. So wood chips is our major media in here. As other folks will say, like Joel Salatin, it's kind of like a diaper. It soaks up all the nutrients from their poop and helps everything biodegrade really well. Also, this time of year we bring so much fodder up here as well from the garden, like this and lettuces and whatnot. We don't have to apply as much wood chips to this situation here, just because all that really helps out as well with the composting. So, well, I think breakfast should be ready. Let's go see if it is. Well, breakfast is not ready yet, so I'll go ahead and knock out this string trimming right now while it's not too hot. It's still morning right now. It should get a little hotter today, but it shouldn't be super bad. I think I'm going to run out of string on my bales, so I went ahead and brought some more. That string trimmer hack you can find on our channel as well. Pretty sure I may run out down here, but maybe not. Who knows? This is going to look funny, but I wear a headband when I do this when it's warm outside. What happens is I start sweating really bad here on my forehead. When I'm looking down at what I'm doing, the sweat fills up my sunglasses or safety glasses, and then I can't see what I'm doing. I have to stop and take everything off, wipe my glasses out, and it's just a major pain. So this helps out a whole lot. Table is quite heavy. Chair, excuse me. So we'll just walk it back. Plenty to do today. Don't want to hurt my back in a situation like this. All right. Let's see if we can reveal the fire pit here. That's a little better there. The rest of that, when we start the fire, it'll burn it right off of there. One of the things, if y'all notice, I'm being very careful where I'm putting my feet. I don't want to run into a copperhead or a snapping turtle. So I'm being really careful, trying to make sure I'm getting down as low as I can to try and avoid that. That way I know that there's nothing there. We've seen some big snapping turtles and also copperheads this year too. But now I've got a spot I can probably get my foot down in here. Big spider. Not what we want. Actually, while I was weed eating there, I actually have a question for you guys out there, and it has to do with the composting situation. Now, earlier I said that I need to figure out a way to go about it. I have watched some Curtis Stone videos on composting, and also Ridgedale Farm. That would be Richard Perkins out there in Sweden. And I didn't really like, or it didn't really fit my context what they were doing. So if you guys have any ideas or can shoot us toward a video about composting that you guys have watched, if you want to put it in the comments below, that'd be great. And when we have some time, we'll go back through there, check those out, and see if any of that can be beneficial to us. I want it to be something that's easy to get to with a tractor, with the bucket of a tractor. Some sort of structure that will work well for that, but I don't really want to take the time to build a roof or anything like that over top of the structure that the compost needs to be housed in. But the problem is, the big problem we're having is that the weed seeds are blowing into the compost and growing in the compost. So that's the major issue that we have. So anyway, if you guys have any idea about that, one of the things, if you were wondering why I beat the head on the pile of firewood over here, it's really, really soft down in there. So all I was trying to do was have a nice hard spot to hit the button to release the string on the bale. That way I can have some more string to deal with while I was in there. I'm not really sure how far that way I'm gonna go today. I'm sure we're getting close to having breakfast ready, but it's actually getting more toward lunchtime. All right, let's go check on breakfast. No food yet, so we'll mess with this for a few more minutes. Here's that other shelter I was talking about earlier. I'll bring you guys in here after I get it moved and show you what I mean, but that center board is just bowed down like crazy. Oh yeah, it's locked in there good. I'll go ahead and try and free it up now. There we go. Because the grass is so tall, when we get inside of there and weed eat, that way it'll hopefully be easier to move. Being pretty careful, you never know what you could find down in some of this tall grass, as we were talking about earlier. All right, set that there so I can see it. Should have done that with this one. If I can get it up and out of the way. Here we go. Let's clean it up. All right, let's make sure we're all good and freed up here once again. Looking good. Let me go get the two-wheeler. And here it is. I don't know if y'all already know this or not, but Polyface made this for us a couple years ago. But you can also make your own if you want to. It's also in their book too. I believe it's Polyface Designs, I think. Well, it's the same book that you saw earlier. So you can make it yourself. Whoop, going the wrong way. Need to be over on this side because we're going to take it back that way. Get underneath, give it a lift. Hard to get through that tall grass. These ropes on this one are a little bit shorter than I like, but they're working. There we go, finally over the hump. That looked a little more difficult than it really is. Went ahead and decided just to leave this stuff on top. Generally, that weight is back here on the dolly when you're going in that direction. Take this back to the other chickens. Now I'm going for some food. Egg, tomato, bacon, lettuce, and some onions. Well, it's noon. We can call it breakfast or we can call it lunch. How about y'all decide? Time to dig in. Alrighty, full belly and a slight costume change there. One thing I need to do here is get this off the ground. That's the main reason why I just moved it. Worms love to eat wood, and there's, as you can see here, it's mostly made out of wood on the frame. So I need to just get it up off the ground. That way it won't get tore up as fast, hopefully. Actually here I have the piece from the other shelter we were talking about earlier for that board right there. And it just completely snapped right there on these knots. So definitely beware of that situation there. So this one at some point will also have to have a 2x4 in that portion. Again, it's going to add weight, but I'd like to have a little bit of extra strength on that part for these. So let's go ahead and start blocking it up. May need to add a little more, but this is all I had handy for the moment, so it's better than nothing. There we go. Now let's see what else we can get into. Oh wait, I have to show you that one thing. I want to show you that bow in it, so do that right now. There's the bow, if you can actually see. I mean, it comes down quite a bit. I'm afraid it will break in the middle of using it like happened last time. I tried to scab it with some screws and zip ties. Well, let's see what else we can get into. And here we are up here at the brooder. So it's pretty interesting. We purchased this off of a family that unfortunately got divorced. But they use this for their laying hens. There's a little door on the side over there. And that's how the chickens would get in and out of this. They sold it to us for a pretty decent price. I think the carts that are underneath of it that you can see there, the green carts, they were, don't remember exactly, but anyway, whatever the cost for those two carts were, that's how much we paid for the entire thing. When we bought it, it only had this foam, not foam, but this bubble insulation on it. And by the time we'd gotten around to using this, it had hauled, just totally was gone and deteriorated. So I went ahead and put some of the foam back on it here, not the foam, but the insulation, excuse me. And we went ahead and used aluminum flashing as a roofing material, and it's been working out pretty good. I haven't had many issues with anything whatsoever. The only thing I wish I could have done or would do is put a little something over here to cover it so that when the rain tries to blow in, it doesn't get on the chicks. All in all, it's been working out pretty good. As you can see here, the tires are flat on it. That's because I don't really pull this thing around. The only thing I use it for right now is just for the brooder, and I use the tractor with the forks to come pick it up. So that's how that whole situation works there. I made some nice little doors for the front of it, and as you can see inside of there, that's kind of how it looks. It's just a 4x4 area, 4 foot by 4 foot area. And I use a string in the very center there on the top, and I place lights in there. So this is two different lights that we have in there. And that way we can have one light on, two lights on, no lights on, depending on how hot it is during the day or how cold it is. So it works out really well. I really like it. The reason why we have it so close to here, the house is actually right beside us here, and the garden's right behind us. We're constantly walking back and forth through here. So what that does is that deters any snakes from trying to get inside of the brooder. The other thing is that because these birds need a lot of care and a lot of time, since we're always walking through here, we can always just stop by here and check real quick and make sure they're doing okay. We made a big mistake of having them up in our barn with the other chickens. There's actually a few mistakes there. The snakes got in there, and the snakes actually killed more of the chicks by laying on top of them while they're eating one of the other baby chicks. So that was mistake number one we made up there, so we had to do something about that. We brought it down here, that way we can actually keep a really close eye on everything and make sure that everything's going okay with that. The other aspect was we have these little doors up there that the chickens go back in to lay in. Well, those little chicks got bunched up against that door and opened the door and came out into the chicken run, and then all the chickens decided they wanted to peck them to death. So that was our first time ever doing the baby chicks. We learned a lot of lessons from that. So now we utilize this. We can get 75 birds in here. They're good to go for 2 weeks. They have just enough room for 2 weeks in the brooder, and by that point they're big enough to go on pasture and not be eaten by snakes out on pasture. We want it outside too. We don't want it inside of our house, and we don't want it inside of a structure, because chickens are very dusty, and there's a large possibility of starting a fire. And if there's a fire started, I want it to be outside, away from all structures. That way if this thing were to catch on fire, this is the only thing that's going to go down. It's not going to take anything else with it. So that's the main thing we do during the winter. When we raise our laying hens, we will put them in the basement, but I hang it up with a metal chain. I'm always constantly worried about there possibly being the chance of a fire. So we take a lot of care down there as well when that happens. It's risky business when it comes to those grow lights and all the dust that these chickens do produce. But I'm going to go ahead and get in here and start cleaning this thing out. Once I get it cleaned out, then we'll bring the tractor down here and we'll pick it up, and you guys can see how that process works. There we go. Now we have it all cleaned out. I do want to talk about one more thing there about these tires. Like I said, right now I can just move it with the tractor. If I do ever want to turn this thing into just carts only and take the structure off the top, I can. And then I'll worry about tires then for sure. It's just they're pneumatic tires. Having to get in there between the tires to fill them up in the very center all the time, there's just no point in even trying at this point in time. I'd rather get tires for it that are no flat tires. That'd be much better. But right now we're not using it for anything but the brooder. So one day in the future we may use the carts for something, but it's not going to be anytime soon. As long as the tractor keeps running, then we'll be able to move it around. And speaking of which, let's go ahead and get the tractor. That'll be good enough for where we're going. Let's get it out of the way. Don't want to leave my bungee cord up here all winter, or there will be nothing left by spring. It's all gone. I wonder if this grass will grow back by winter. Just have to wait and see, I suppose. Well, it certainly is nice to have that brooder out of the way. Now I have to crop out these two beds of salad right here to get ready for some more transplants that are similar to these over here. I'm probably just going to speed that part of the video up, but if y'all want to check that out, exactly what's happening here and why, I highly recommend watching the Ramblings in the Garden Crop Out Edition video that we have posted on our channel as well. Just kind of explain how this process works and our thought processes behind that as well. Well, I don't want to get started, but there's only one way to get it over with, and that is to get started. So let's get started. Well, that wasn't too bad. Only took about an hour or so. Now let's see what else we can get into. Well, Anna's been hard at it, that's for sure. Put the insect netting up on these different crops here to try and protect them from any sort of insect pressure. Let's walk down this way and see how she's progressing. How are things coming along?
My hands are hurting. No gloves. But you can't really feel anything working with these fiber posts, trying to put them in the ground. Gloves just slip. I'm sure you can get some gloves that's got grips, but it just costs more money.
That's it. And what we're doing here is we're going through this old insect netting just to try and pick out ones that don't have many holes in them. And we'll put them down here on these little fiberglass hoops. Pretty nifty little way to do it. Holds up just fine. We use these fiberglass poles sometimes for the plastic tunnels, which are actually called the poly low tunnels. We found that a metal conduit pole on one end or hoop and a conduit on the other side is plenty enough to hold onto the plastic. But with these, with this meaning the insect netting, the fiberglass is plenty good. Pretty simple, you just shove it down in the ground. And then you bend it over and then stick it down in the other side of the ground there. Let me see if I can give her a hand here trying to work on this one-handed. Might be able to. Might make it worse. Yep, might be making it a little worse. But that's what she's been down here doing. Yeah, not to mention doing the planting.
Fiber posts. You want to see how
fiberglass.
Just see how flexible they are. They're very lightweight for what they are. I think they were like what, $1.79 a piece or something like that. $1 something for a piece. But that's been. I think we bought these in 2020, late winter, if I'm not mistaken.
Cannot remember. They do break from time to time. It does happen.
Yeah.
But for the cost of them versus conduit, and then having to bend the conduit for a hoop, it's relatively cost effective. Like she was saying, hopefully it's still that way. Hopefully so. Alrighty.
We just gotta get this. We got all the edges here.
So as you can see, she's going to put weights all the way down through there, just like she has on the right-hand side. And that's it. Well, let's see what else we can get into here. All right, I've had to run around and do some other things here. You can see my shadow in the shot, but that's just the way it's going to be. Had to run around and do some other things. Finished cropping out the bed of salad over here at about 3:45. It's a little bit after 5 o'clock now. But I want to show you one thing about one modification we had to make with the Jang. And that is, if you could point to it, we took a zip tie right there, and we hold up a little paddle there that would take your soil and actually cover that back up after the cultivation part right there, as far as the very front of where the seed drops. So, just want to say we had to make one small modification to make that work in our wood chips that we use, and we typically only go about 1 inch of wood, only about 1 inch's worth of wood chips deep. So right now she's going to start planting carrots. She's already planted quite a few beds, but I just didn't get out here in time to do any recording of that. So, let's go ahead and see how this works in the wood chips. Oh, got a little hung up there on that one. Your front wheel's not turning at all. How often does this situation happen?
No, that's never happened.
Ooh, it's never happened. So now we have some complications here. What's going on?
The wood chip is stuck in between the metal right here and the wheel.
Wood chip got stuck between the metal and the wheel. That's something that's never happened before. And how long have we had the Jang now?
Be a year. It's a year, a little over a year.
Over a year now of using this thing, and that's never happened. But it stopped right about where this particular bow comes down on the, somewhere in that range. Of course, we'll be able to go back and look at it on the video footage afterwards. And there we go. There's one row planted already. So all she'll do there is turn it around.
Yeah, what I should have completed went through here. Shouldn't have. Well, no, just have to get space.
Don't mind me as I try not to step on lettuce transplants. Kind of the rule of the garden here is to not go backwards when filming, and I just did it. I had to turn around there. There we go. So as you can see, not everything goes completely according to plan. But the Jang cedar really is more like a Cadillac compared to the Earthway cedar. Goes really smooth, goes fast. And you have a lot of options with the wheels, planting wheels, the gear settings, all of those fun things. So how many rows are you going for there?
Not real 100% sure. Do at least 9, if not 11.
So 9 rows here possibly.
So there's 1, 2. Got all this can all be later.
Ooh, bobble there. Breaking the rules of filming in the garden. Don't walk backwards. Oh well, I can do it. If anyone else is helping film, we don't allow it. Too dangerous. Could trip on one of those pieces of rebar and not have a very fun day after that. And again, I'm sure I've said this before, but if you go more than 1 inch deep of wood chips, which you're starting to see a little bit of that here, is a little bit deeper than 1 inch, then the transplanter, the paper pot transplanter has issues, the Earthway cedar has issues, and also the Jang has issues. So we still do get that benefit, you know, back to Eden style benefit of ground cover.
I think that's about it.
So that's about it on this. So it being 5 p.m., we're probably not going to record a whole lot more stuff, but we'll see what we get into. So here's how everything gets pulled apart here on the Jang. Not everything, but at least the hopper itself.
Just push back on this little lever and then pull it out. I did was just push in a little bit and then pull it up. And I'll take this apart, that way you can see it here in just a second. So you're gonna take this little screw, I guess is what you would call it, out. And then you're going to have your little wheel. So you're going to have to take the pin and the gear. I guess you would call that a gear. Then these are interchangeable, and they have like little X24 on there. I don't know if you can see that, but they have paper that you can go by. But unfortunately, I don't know why this is. The paper that we received in the internet says 2 different wheels, so not really sure, but these are the wheels that we're using for planting radish, turnips, and carrots. Radish we're doing F24, and turnips we're doing Y24, and carrots X24. The carrots are coated, and they have like a specific one that you can buy, but this is working out fine for us to save us like 40 bucks, I think is what they cost. So you just pick which one you want to use. And again, I think you get like 4 or 5. I think you get 4 of these when you buy the Jang as a set. And you have to pay for individual ones that you may need. So you just slide the wheel that you want back in there, push it shut, and put your screw back in there. And then this is always tricky. I always mess this up, but you want to make sure that the gears are on the side that is on the Jang, so when you put it back in, it's going to work out well. So it's going to go on this side. And it's got a flat spot and a flat spot in there. Push it through, and then push the pin through, and the curvy side on the flat side of the gear. And then there you are. You're ready to rock and roll with your seeds and your cap. And then also you can actually use this when it's raining. I've not really done that yet because you don't want to get your seeds wet. So, and I would be the one to accidentally get the seeds wet. So anyways, well, that should work. Hopefully this helps you guys. If not, if you have a comment, you know something different, please leave it in the comments below.
Well, that's good enough. It does have reverse.
Huh?
I said that's good enough. It does have reverse.
What you want me to do?
You're fine. These smaller pieces, we'll go ahead and take those and set them near the fire ring.
Okay.
To get the fire started.
Fast, huh?
Yes, that happens. We're not really too concerned about stacking this grate because we're going to burn it. Alrighty. Other family members actually made this table for us, and it was very recent. Very, very recent. They brought it up last weekend. This is our first time giving it a shot. Hope Sweet Frog enjoys this wonderful free plug with the broken umbrella that we got from him.
I just have to sew it.
Yeah, it just needs to be sewed up. There we go.
I just have to hand sew that.
So they made a little, yeah, we can just pull it out. There's no wind today. I don't need to be sewed up. They made this interesting little pole here for us to shove it on. But it works. So, hey Brandon, nice little plug for you there, Sweet Frog. What happened there?
It broke. They just have staples on it. Whoever.
Oh, somebody just stapled them.
They just stapled it. They didn't sew it. They didn't. Apparently, they didn't know how to hand sew. Doesn't have to look.
Well, I doubt they had a sewing kit there available.
Well.
I do the yogurt thing anyway, right? Well, yeah. Oh well.
It works good. I mean, it's fine.
That's some shade.
Yep.
That is some shade. We might actually fix this thing or actually buy a real umbrella. All right, now let's go move the chickens out on pasture. Alrighty, so we're down here to move everybody around down here. It's right about 6 p.m. We typically don't make a move until 7 p.m. or so. But to enjoy our staycation area, we're going to do it a little bit earlier. I tell you though, that umbrella down there looks horrible. Looks really bad. So this is about how it goes. We can actually have one person handle these things when they're being pulled forward. I usually like to take the feeder to mark where the leading cage is. Excuse me, shelter. Shelter, because we have a lot of predators out here. If they're not in these, they will die. They will get murdered. One other thing to keep in mind that you will need with these shelters when the ground is uneven, you have to take little bits and pieces of wood to plug the holes. Generally, we just have them up on top. And they just ride along. So again, one person can do it that way, but we like 2 people. That way someone else can see that this dolly is not getting in the way of a chicken or something and do some damage to it. Clear? Want to be kind of quick about that process there. Now she's going to watch and make sure none of these chickens are stuck in the very back. We do have one in here that has a leg that is messed up on them. It happens every now and then in a batch. You get one at least that might have a problem with its legs, just the way it goes. Looking good? Yeah, she's saying that the chicken is looking better, but that always happens. They get a little better, then they get a little worse and a little better. Usually the chicken with a leg like that does not make it through. So I can go faster.
You've got like 6 inches.
Okay, we've made it. Am I still clear to pull this out? Next we'll go back to the other one, go ahead and get it moved.
They're all right there in the back.
So we'll give it a little tap here. They're all in the very back of the shelter here. Next thing we'll do is we'll try and a little lift and a shake here. And they've all ran away. These birds should move better. They're a lot smaller. They've only been on pasture for a little bit. Watch out, Genesis. There you go. So don't worry about the dog. How's it going? How much further do I need to come forward, or is that enough? There we go. Yep, right on the money, Genesis. All up in the way, dog. Generally, she would watch me to make sure I didn't smush any chickens right there, but I can see that they're all up front as well. And give them their water that we hauled down here earlier as well. I can't remember what time it is now. It's after 6 p.m. at some point in time. That's right, we've already discussed that, but after 6 p.m. So in the morning, we'll have to make sure we get down here at a decent hour. These broilers will be getting a little bit low on water by that point in time. So that'll be the first thing we do in the morning, is to make sure they're doing okay on that. Now, were they out of feed in their feeder? No. Okay, so we're actually overfeeding these chickens right now. No big deal. They're still on starter feed. And one thing I want to mention earlier is that we pour the feed on the ground when the feeder's filled up, which is no big deal. It's actually a great tool that you can use, because whenever you want to move them and they get a lot larger, they don't want to move. So what we do is we'll place feed right about where the shelter is going to end up. So we'll pour some feed on the ground here. What that does is that motivates them to want to come to the feed, so they'll want to move better that way. It's really, really handy when you start moving them backwards, because they can't see where they're going. But as soon as they see that feed on the other side of the shelter, within the shelter, they all run to it, and you can really move the shelter a lot faster. I want this one as full as I can get it for tonight. Every last drop. Time. Nope, just kidding. We don't actually do that really fast. Anyway, long and short, guys, here's been a day on a farm for you. It's kind of how things go, the ebb and flow. I know y'all followed me a lot more today than Anna, but that's just the way that happens sometimes when we have a limited amount of camera equipment, which is a-okay. We're working with what we have, and we hope y'all are enjoying the videos. I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to do long form videos like this throughout the day. It just depends. The kids went camping with their aunt, so they weren't here, and I woke up this morning and said, well, you know what, let's just get the camera out and have the camera follow us around today, showing what we're doing here on farm, just to kind of show y'all how the day goes. It's always different, depends on the weather. The plans always change. It's just a bit of how that goes. Well, guys, we greatly appreciate it. We'll see you here on the next video. If you did like this video, please subscribe and give it a like. The like helps out a lot on the YouTube algorithm. Really helps the video get out there to more folks. We appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.